Hi, today on The Matchmaker, we have 3 great stories to share with you. The memory of a beloved grandmother, the joy of your inner child, and wrapping your mom in a beautiful garden. Stay tuned. Hi, it's Fran Morgan with Fabric Café, and I'm your Fabric Matchmaker. On the episode today, we have 3 great stories to share with you. A grandmother's memory, a childlike inner joy, and gardens for mom. But before we get into those stories, I want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for the submissions that you sent in. We are busily matching your fabric, and just as soon as we find just the perfect thing, we're going to be showing everyone out there the fabric selections. So bear with us, and if you would like to submit for the Matchmaker, just stay tuned to the end and we'll definitely give you the information on how that works. So let's jump into our first story. Very first story, the fabric is from Charity, and I absolutely love this fabric. It has this warm kind of vintage feel, and I just think it's just cozy as can be. So let's look at the story, or let's read the story from Charity and see what she says about this fabric. Charity writes, I was drawn to this fabric because of the nostalgic feelings it evoked in my grandmother. It reminded me of her home in Pennsylvania. I would visit her when I was a child and remember the beautiful apple orchards that surrounded her home and the rich colors that were used for her furniture upholstery. I fondly remember a set of chairs that my grandmother was particularly proud of and loved. The upholstery in her home was from the 60s and 70s, and the patterns and colors are part of my style now because of her influence. My grandmother passed in January of this year. I would like to incorporate this fabric as well as fabrics like this into a quilt to honor her memory. I would like to make a visual reminder of her. This style has become a part of me and the love and legacy that she has left behind. Well, Charity, let's see what we can do. And so sorry to hear about your grandmother, so let's do something extra special for her. Now, for this fabric, I have selected the Sugar Pie quilt. We're going to look at that. And the reason why I picked Sugar Pie is because it has this really nice large block. This is where your memory fabric is going to go here. So I really think that it's going to show it off well. But then it also borders it nicely with a number 3 fabric. So let's put this on the table so that we can see where the fabric is placed that we have chosen for her. So as I said, the memory fabric from Charity will be going in this block here, which I think will be perfect. Now the other 2 fabrics that we have chosen to go with her featured fabric are these 2 here, and I think that they're just gorgeous. So we've got this focus fabric that she sent in. This memory fabric actually has a little bit of a metallic kind of gold look on it. So I pulled that in our number 2 fabric, and I think this is so sweet. It's got the butterflies and all of the blooms. And then the number 3 fabric is this wonderful rich red that matches perfectly with her memory fabric. Now the number 3 fabric will be going around the block here, and it will border this, and then the number 2 will be in the background. Now what's really great is we have an image for you on the screen, so Charity, you can see exactly how your quilt is going to look once you make it up. And just as a reminder, we thank you so much for submitting, and we will be sending you 1 yard of the number 2 and the number 3 fabric, as well as the Sugar Pie pattern. So I can't wait to see how that looks made up. Now for the rest of you that do not have a focus fabric like Charity, we do have an alternate for you, which actually I'm pretty excited about. I'm going to set this over here. All right, this is, I think, so wonderfully cool. I tried very much to kind of keep that feel that she mentioned in her letter of that 70s kind of floral fabric. And let's just say this is like an updated version of this. We have this gorgeous poppy fabric here, and this would be used in the number 1. And then of course we have kept the same number 2 and number 3, which also look gorgeous with this fabric. So I think we have an image on the screen for you to see just how great it's still gonna look even with this focus fabric. Even if you don't have something like Charity, this is gonna be wonderful. And this is actually a gorgeous, gorgeous quilt. So if you would like to follow in Charity's footsteps and make a quilt as a memory, the kit number on this one is 8022115. It's called Remembering Grandmother. The pattern, once again, is Sugar Pie. It's from the Pretty Darn Quilt book, or it is available as an individual. Now, our next swatch that was sent in is from Mac, and I was so excited whenever I saw who sent this in. Mac actually has a YouTube channel that I have watched and enjoyed so much, so I'm so appreciative that she is participating today. Her YouTube channel, let me just make sure I get it right, I'm going to check it here, is M.A. Couture Crafting. And check that out because she's got some great stuff on her channel too. Now the swatch that she sent us is the Queen of Hearts, and I just love this. So when she wrote her story and sent her swatch, she gave us a little background information, but I had the fabulous opportunity to speak with her on the phone just to get a little bit more information. I thought this was such a unique fabric. I wanted the full story. So let's read her story and see what she says. So Max says, I love visiting Disneyland. I love that. It's my happy place and gives me much joy and inspiration. The colors, the lights, the aesthetics, and the many happy smiling faces bring me an inner peace of joy and happiness. I purchased the Alice in Wonderland fabric because it gave me a similar feeling. It symbolizes the joy of childhood and the many dreams we dream as children. I love 3-yard quilts too, and picking fabrics is usually a breeze for me. But for some reason, choosing coordinating fabrics for the Queen of Hearts fabric is giving me tons of trouble. What pattern should I use? What colors will complement? Help! I am planning on keeping the finished quilt for myself so that I may feel the joy of Disneyland every single day. Please feel free to go as wild as you want. Okay, Mac, I went a little wild, okay? So whenever I'm looking at this and I see all of the gorgeous, gorgeous colors in this fabric swatch, I really wanted to pull something great and really keep everything very vibrant and fun. So first, let's look at the quilt that I chose. I chose the Soho pattern because I felt like we would be able to get a good part of the Queen of Hearts in this larger block. That was the first thing. The second was I wanted to add the interest because I really think it's important on Mac's quilt that we really give her a lot of movement and joy and excitement. And I think Soho is a great way to do that. So let's look at some coordinating fabrics. The Queen of Hearts coordinating fabric. Now, I'm going to kind of go a little ahead, and I actually had the opportunity to find this fabric online, so that's why I have a large piece here. But this is going to be the number 1 fabric, Mac, and it is, like I said, going in this larger square of the Soho pattern. Now, our number 2 fabric. Now, you may look at this and go, what in the world were you thinking? But the reason why I pulled it is if you look at the Queen of Hearts here, and do you see how it's got this little kind of element underneath her? I think this picks that element up perfectly, and it's also a white, so it gives you a little bit of contrast in the pattern so that whenever you make it, it really, really pops. And then our number 3 fabric, I'm going back to something very bold. And you can see that these colors coordinate so well, even though it's a very different aesthetic. But I think it gave a great balance of the reds and the pinks and the greens and everything that's going on. So once again, the focus goes in the big square. The number 2 fabric goes here in the background and in the center here. And then the number 3 will be the border and these blocks here. So I do believe there is an image on the screen, and you can see just how wonderfully fun and bold it is. And I took your advice and went just wild and crazy with it. So I hope that you enjoy it, and I would love to see it if you go ahead and get that made up. Now, as I mentioned before, I was able to find the matching fabric that Max sent in. So I have the exact kit for everyone. So for Mac, I'm going to send her a yard of the number 2 and a yard of the number 3 fabric, as well as the pattern Soho. But for all of the rest of you out there, if you would like to order this fabric kit, that number is 8022116. It is called Queen of My Heart, and we are using the Soho pattern from Quick as a Wink. And if you do not have the book and you want to choose the alternate pattern that we suggest, I think it'll be equally wonderful in our snowball pattern. So Mac, I hope that brings you lots of joy as you make that quilt. Now our next quilt, I thought this was just such a sweet story. Jessica has submitted for us. She gave us a piece of this beautiful garden fabric with daylilies on it, and it's just so sweet and peaceful. Let's read Jessica's story and see what she has to say about this great fabric. Jessica wrote, "My mom has quite the green thumb and has always enjoyed her houseplants and flower beds. Pulling weeds is probably one of her favorite pastimes. We joke that if there is a weed, she's got to pull it. She just can't help herself. Her favorite flowers are daylilies and just about anything that grows from a bulb. Daffodils, jonquils, snowbells, spider lilies, amaryllis, all of them. She has grown them all and shares her treasured bulbs with her friends and family. One day while looking through my mother's fabric stash, I found this fabric. The beautiful flower garden reminded me so much of her love of gardening. I hadn't seen this fabric before, but honestly, that isn't a surprise because she has quite the large stash. In 2020, due to health reasons, she was unable to work in her flower bed. I know it was one of the many things that weighed on her. I would like to use this fabric in a quilt for her, so she will always have a beautiful flower garden wrapped around her." Oh, sweet. It's a directional fabric, and I wanted to do something a little more involved than a simple 4 or 9 patch. I'm still new to quilting and I only have this one piece. I don't want to mess it up. Could you please help me pick coordinating fabrics and a pattern? Well, Jessica, that's wonderful. I would love to pick something out so that you can wrap your mom in a garden of love. So this is, like she said, a directional fabric, and actually the pattern that I chose, because you did mention that you were a little bit of a new quilter, but you didn't want a 9 patch or a 4 patch. So what I did is I chose Dash. So let's check that out. Now Dash is a great pattern because it's still very simple, but it has lots of extra movement going on here. I think your fabric will look great in one of these larger squares. And then I also picked it because I kind of thought it looked like stepping stones in a garden. So I thought it would coordinate really well with the theme that we're going with here. So let's look at the coordinating fabrics for that. So Jessica, I think that this is so gorgeous, and I think your mother is going to love it. So what I've done here is Jessica's fabric that she sent in. So our number 2 fabric is this beautiful white. Now this is kind of a tone-on-tone white with a little bit of a flower vine in the background, and that will be back here. And then our number 3 fabric is this great purple, and that will be in the alternate block. And I thought it went so perfectly well with the floral that you sent in. I think this is going to be fantastic. Now, Jessica, I am going to be sending you a yard of the number 2 fabric and a yard of the number 3 fabric so that you can make it up. And I do believe that we have an image on the screen so that you can see what it looks like and get a good feel of where we're going with it. Now, for those of you that do not have the fabric that Jessica has submitted here, I've got something special for you. Now, I have something that I think works equally as beautiful. And I picked this because I think it has the same feel as the daylily fabric that Jessica sent in. And I think that it also looks like a blooming garden. And I love that it has a little bit of the greens and blues and yellows. And that will be the focus fabric that goes in your block here on the quilt. And then we have the same coordinating number 2 and 3 fabrics. So our number 2 in the background and our number 3 in the alternating block. And you can see here how wonderful that looks there. So I do believe we have the image on the screen so that you can see how that's going to look and make up just as equally as beautiful. So if you would like to make that up, I've got the quilt information for you here. The number is 8022117. It's called A Garden for Mom, and we're using the dash pattern from the Easy Peasy book. So thank you so much, all of you, for participating today. As I did mention, we will be sending you those alternate fabrics for you to use, as well as the pattern in the book. So I do appreciate it. Now, for the rest of you out there that would like to submit swatches to the Matchmaker, if you will visit our website, go to the free goodies tab and go to the guides and tips section. And the Matchmaker submission form will be in there. Just fill that out and send it our way with at least a 12-inch swatch would be appreciated. And thank you so, so much. I so appreciate doing this, and it really does bring me lots of joy to be able to match your fabric, hear your stories, and see how quilting affects our life. Be sure to subscribe, ring the little bell for notification, and leave us a comment if you enjoyed this episode. I'm Fran Morgan, and I'm your Fabric Matchmaker.